you've ever yondered on down to Texas. But the first thing I saw when I got to Texas was a giant sign that said, "Don't mess with Texas." No, because that's the official state motto. And it's like, that's the only state where the motto is a threat. And then, like, I thought about it, it's like, man, if that's the one they went with, like, just imagine the ones they had to reject. They're just, "Texas, you better back the fuck up, faggot." Why is Texas yelling at me? Texas is kind of a jerk. And I think he has a drinking problem.
Here's the cool part, is I talk a lot about the war on drugs and how ridiculous it is. I don't smoke pot anymore. Don't do it. And one of the reasons...
I know he's just saying that so he doesn't get searched
No.
on the plane.
I used to smoke so much pot.
Right.
And I will occasionally.
Right.
But I don't do it. And what's really cool is I just, on Real Time with Bill Maher, Jason Alexander, Penn from Penn and Teller, both of those guys are so against the war on drugs and they speak out against it, and they've never smoked pot. And I think the reason that that's so important is because, and here's the reason the war on drugs gets mocked, and here's the reason Ralph Nader gets mocked and Dennis Kucinich gets mocked, is because it's so easy to categorize people against the war on drugs and be like, oh, they just want to get high.
Stoners,
right?
Lazy.
And because of that, it's a really easy out where they don't have to look on the effects of the economy and how it affects poverty and how it affects, our prison sentences, where the majority of American prisoners are nonviolent drug offenders.
That's wild. Is that a real statistic?
Yes. Yeah, that's a real statistic.
Really wild. That's sad.
And then when you start to divide it into race, it's terrible. I mean, only this year they started finally discussing in Congress why the penalty for crack cocaine is infinitely worse than powder cocaine. Where powder cocaine is predominantly used amongst whites, crack cocaine black. I mean, it was basically flat out racist.
If we want marijuana to be legalized, basically what we as a public have to do is find a way for our government and our police to make more money by having it be legal than they're making by it being illegal.
And people are like, they're throwing that out there. They're saying, you tax it, you regulate it. I mean, that's what happens with alcohol.
Tax it, study it.
But you have, the big alcohol companies, and they don't want that.
No,
you know what I mean? Because I drink.
It's a far superior drug. I mean, as far as drugs go, you don't get hungover. Like you said, you don't get violent.
You don't get violent.
Your chief forgot you can't really overdose on it. You cannot, like alcohol poisoning. You absolutely can.
No. I mean, you literally
You can't drink yourself to death in 24 hours. You cannot smoke yourself to death.
So many people have done that. A
lot of people do that. In combination with other things, forget it.
And not only that, I mean, the statistic with crack, coke, and heroin combined, again, there's no more. I don't even know if that's taking in effect domestic violence, or
car accidents.
Car accidents. I mean, you look at most of the homicides in this country are crimes of passion. How much of that is from alcohol? How much of that is the drunk guy sees his wife fucking another guy, and just because they're drunk. You know what I mean? Like,
alcohol is a violent, dumbing, mind-numbing drug. It is. It makes you impervious to blows, and that's not good.
Yeah, and
you feel less, and you think less.
Yeah,
and you move less, and it's not good.
I know, and then again with the media, it's just like when the media, I mean, right now, over 70% of the country is against the war in Iraq, right?
Right.
But for so long, whenever they would show war protesters on the news, they wouldn't show the articulate, intelligent, but sometimes veterans. They wouldn't show those people on the news. They would show, like, here's the crazy 80-year-old grandma, showing her folk song. And it's the same way with pot, is if you ever, you'll never see someone articulately be like, this is why medicinally, I mean, oddly enough, and you have to dig.
Will hear.
Chris Dodd, who was running for president, obviously Dennis Kucinich, even Obama.
Right.
Obama wants it decriminalized.
Does he? Mm-hmm. Okay. Will he speak on that?
I don't know. He has.
Right.
I mean,
Okay.
and he has recently.
Good.
Decriminalize is different than legalization, but it's certainly for a mainstream
It's a step
candidate.
in the right direction.
It's a
Yeah,
total
that
step
is
in the right.
major.
But Chris Dodd absolutely did. Dennis Kucinich absolutely did.
That's
Ralph
great.
Nader absolutely does. And I mean, you know, again, it's a step in the right direction, but people are afraid. Again, it's a fear when you criminalize something, and then when, you know, the only time you show people who are dissenting against it, you show like the crazy pot smoker.
I know.
And it's like, that's
still that
not,
Reefer Madness, that goddamn
Yeah,
piece
I
of
mean,
shit movie just
totally.
ruined everything.
It's like, show the professors, show the doctors,
Right.
show, you know,
Right.
these people who are infinitely more intelligent. But
Well, that's why I wanted to bring it up with you, because when a comedian
constructs?
yes, I was going to say slices and dices something.
That works.
When they do that, you know, I really think it shines light on things in a very intelligent way, which is why I was a little surprised when you qualified what you're saying by saying I'm not an academic, I'm just a comic or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you have to qualify yourself when you talk about stuff like that's political? Or is that just a defense thing, like just, hey, don't take this too seriously?
I don't know. I mean, I can tell you, I'm not sure when I said that tonight. I'm sure I did. But I can tell you that comics are, oddly enough, some of the most intelligent people I've ever talked to.
Totally. And they're very self-effacing.
Yeah, and you know, I don't know why I say that. It's weird, like maybe because that's just the way the country is, where you have to have your degrees. Like I dropped out of high school, you know, but at the same time, like I read more than most people I know that went to college. You know,
you had a great conversation going on about atheism,
mm-hmm.
and a lot of great comedy about, again, something that, and some fabulous Jesus jokes, and talk about that a little bit.
Sure. I mean, I guess, and I didn't say this in the last interview, but I mean, for me personally, the reason
I know let's just say, I always take a Jew count, don't I, Kenny? I'm always like, who's Jewish? I'm Jewish.
Yeah.
You said you're half Jewish. Your dad's Jewish?
I mean, technically, I guess.
Kilstein?
Yeah, I mean, Kilstein's obviously very Jewy. Yeah.
We thought.
That's where I got the funny. But I mean, my dad,
Right?
my dad's. I mean, it's more in a just kind of traditional, just I've never been to synagogue.
Like a reformed kind of.
Yeah, it was just kind of an excuse. Like, let's hang out with the other Jew relatives, and we're just eat like fried potato stuff.
Some nice matzo ball soup.
Yeah, for sure. But the reason that I think the reason that I really, the reason.
Did you study it at all? No Hebrew school.
Well, no,
stuff.
zero. But I mean, ever since talking about religion, I've read the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
I've researched religion very thoroughly. And
is your mom Catholic? You said.
Christian. Yeah.
Oh, Christian. Okay.
And my mom's parents, hardcore evangelicals, worked for George W. Bush.
Wow.
For George Bush Sr.'s campaign.
Wow.
Yeah.
Love to see that family dinner.
Oh my God! Well, here's the thing:
Turkey flying.
that's the weird thing. They're very nice people.
Oh, sure.
But I forgot. Like I was living out of my car for so long, just driving around the country doing comedy, and I stayed with them in Seattle. And again, the first thing I saw when I walked in was a picture of my grandma with George Bush, and I'm like,
wow,
oh, fuck, that's right.
What a mind blow.
We talked about it. I mean, it's some really cool conversations, and
they were civil and.
There were civil.
I'm
their grandson.
You're right.
Like you have to.
Yeah.
But
it's fascinating. I have a few relatives that I,
dude, I get more. I get more excited to talk about people who disagree with me than people who agree with me. Like,
right.
That's the only way to do it, and that's why I love comedy so much. Is I feel like the reason I started doing comedy, I think maybe, is that when bad shit happened to me when I was a kid, and you can probably relate to this, and you probably relate to this, which is there'd be this awful tense moment, and everyone's like so upset and they don't know what to do, and the second somebody made a joke that worked, like just suddenly all the tension was gone.
Right.
And it was kind of like, oh, it's going to be okay.
Right.
Like, we can talk about this now.